Oh, hi there. Ollie Anderson here. Welcome to this video. Today I'm going to give you a psychological hack that will change your life if you implement it. Why would you need this hack? Well, if you find yourself in a situation where you're constantly running around like a blue-ass fly, trying to get certain results in life, but those results are forever out of reach, then this hack is going to help you. It's going to help you to dig into your unconscious intentions and to get out the surface level way of seeing and viewing things when you filter everything through the ego, so that you can reset or reconfigure what's going on down there and allow something real to surface, instead of just rearranging the furniture on the Titanic by seemingly chasing things, but actually only running on the spot, because the things that you're chasing are not something that you want as much as you think you want. So let's get into this. So why would you want to implement this hack that I'm about to share with you? It's quite simple. A lot of people out there in the world, and you may be one of them, find themselves in situations where they're constantly chasing something and they can never quite find it. So for example, maybe you're chasing like your dream relationship, maybe you're trying to get more money, maybe you have some kind of a goal for your business or whatever it is, and it just never happens. And a lot of the time, we think that the core problem in attaining whatever that may be, is that there's some external thing, external force or factor out there in the world that is preventing us and holding us back from acquiring or attaining whatever it is. So for example, in the case of relationships, we will just say, you know, it's 2023 at the time of making this video, and the world is going to hell in a handcart. Everyone's a degenerate, and there's only low quality men, low quality women. I just can't find a partner. Everyone's so selfish and blah, 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 blah. That's all some externalized bullshit thing. And if you externalize everything, you take your power out of your hands. With the money thing, maybe it's the same thing, right? You'll say, well, you know, there's some external force out there in the world. It's the Illuminati or whatever, and they're holding me back from making money, and we live in an economy that's fueled by scarcity and yada, 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 and I'm just always going to be poor. And so the externalization of your goal basically puts you in a frame of mind where you're never going to get it. And ultimately, the problem is not just the externalization, but the fact that the externalization is affecting the results that you get, and the results that you get are always showing you what you are actually choosing at an unconscious level. This is where this stuff gets a little bit offensive to some people. But ultimately, in these two examples that I just picked to pieces, if you can't find your dream partner, even though you're telling yourself that's what you want, there is something going on inside you, deep down, where your actual real intention is not to find your dream partner. And we'll dig into that in a minute. With the money thing, as counterintuitive as it sounds, because obviously we all love money, it makes life meaningful. If you can't bring money into your life, well, for some reason, you are choosing not to. Even though at the conscious level of the mind and the ego, you're telling yourself that is your intention. Actually, the reason it keeps kind of staying out of grasp, staying out of reach, is because when you dig into it, you'll find at some level, you are choosing something else more than the money. And ultimately, the hack that we're about to talk about is about learning to understand that, reverse engineering the real choices that we're making by the results that we're getting, and then looking inside ourselves and saying, hang on, what the hell is going on here to cause me to think one thing, but to choose the opposite? I'm going to give you some examples. So let's start with some examples of imaginary people that sum up some kind of common ways this shows up in the world. So let's say, for example, the first person is an individual called Susie. Just pulled that out of my ass. Susie has been single or in a bad relationship that didn't last very long for the last decade, let's say. And on those long, lonely nights where she sat at home watching Netflix and eating Cheetos, She keeps telling herself that she does want a relationship. And the little hamster wheel in her head keeps thinking about relationships and how good life would be if she could get in a relationship. And then every so often, somebody comes along who seems like they might be a good fit. But as soon as they get involved with each other, Susie starts inexplicably becoming hypercritical and pushing these people away, or she can't help but just focus on their flaws to the extent that she becomes totally turned off. And then after a couple of weeks, couple of months, whatever it is, the relationship kind of dwindles and dies, and poor Susie is back at home watching Netflix with all that Cheeto dust over her mouth. So that's not good, is it? Or maybe there's another imaginary character called Bob who wants to start his own business. And he keeps telling himself that he's going to be really successful. He's going to do whatever it takes to get this business up and running so that he can make loads of money and, support his family or whatever it is he wants to do. And he kind of knows the way forward. Like, he's created a business plan and a vision, and he's done some market research and blah-de-blah-de-blah. But for some reason, when it's time to go out there and start talking to potential clients or to communicating with people about his ideas, he always finds something else to do. For example, maybe he just goes and spends time on social media telling himself that this is research or that he's finding new ways to connect with people or whatever it is. But ultimately, even though he keeps telling himself every morning when he wakes up that today's the day, he's going to actually fix his business and get where he needs to be, he just keeps procrastinating. He never gets anywhere. And even though he's telling himself the same old story again and again and again, he starts to feel a bit insane because nothing ever changes. Or what about this final example? We have an imaginary woman or guy called Melissa, and guys can be called Melissa too these days. But anyway, Melissa, in this example, is a little bit overweight, and she doesn't want to be because it's kind of taking too much energy. Like, she can't get up the stairs quite as fast as she used to without getting out of breath. And she's becoming insecure about the way that she looks. And she's worried that people are secretly judging her as she walks down the street and blah, 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 blah. So she keeps telling herself that she's going to go to the gym and she's going to lose weight. She's going to watch her diet, and that she's making a choice basically for a healthier lifestyle so she can lose some weight and start to feel good about herself. But for some unknown reason, nothing ever changes. She goes to the gym and she just kind of goes through the motions. She doesn't really put any effort in or push herself to the edge. So her heart rate doesn't go up and she doesn't burn any calories really. And when she does go home, because she's been to the gym, she ends up stuffing her face with whatever it is, some kind of a food reward that she feels she deserves. And so 6 months into this exercise regime, this health and fitness program that she's put herself on, nothing has changed. And even though she's been telling herself, and she keeps telling herself that she wants to make these changes, she's just as overweight as she was, and she feels like banging her head against the wall. What is going on in these examples? So before we get onto the hack, here's a little mini hack. And it's going to show you how to know, ultimately, if you have this kind of issue going on in your life. And the key here is to know that if you keep complaining about something, if you keep lamenting about something, then probably you have this kind of inner conflict that we're talking about, where you're telling yourself you want something, but for some reason, there is something else going on inside you that is actually causing you to choose either the opposite or something else. And the reason that complaining is a sign is because ultimately, if you keep complaining about something, it means you're keeping a problem in your life, but for whatever reason, you're choosing not to solve it. If you truly become aware of a problem and you truly accept what a problem is, then you will either do something about it and no longer have the problem, or you will just have to accept that it's a fundamental part of life and reality. And so by going through the process of acceptance, you'll no longer have anything to complain about. And so complaining constantly about the same thing, not finding a relationship, not being able to lose weight, not being able to make money or whatever it is, complaining constantly and chronically is a sign that your ego is invested in this story about a certain goal and a certain desire, but deep down beneath the surface of yourself, you have an inner conflict that is causing you to choose something else for some reason. And think about it now. What are you always complaining about? Because probably if you're always complaining about it, then in some weird backwards way, you're choosing it and you need to figure out why so that you can put yourself on a real path and actually either resolve whatever it is that you're complaining about or to let it go because you can accept that you don't really want to change things. So this is where we come on to the hack that I promised you at the start of the video. It's very simple. And ultimately it's this. You can reverse engineer your real intentions for yourself and your life by the results that you keep getting. And so in all these examples we've shared, if you consistently can't find a relationship, that's the result that you're getting. And it just means that your true intention, no matter what you're telling yourself at the level of the ego, your constructed identity and all of the stories that you feed through it about life, it just means that you are choosing not to be in a relationship for some reason. And I know that's going to piss some people off because, of course, if you're telling yourself you're in a relationship and you're going out there and you're getting involved in all kinds of unsavory situations with people because you're trying to get in a relationship, then of course you want a relationship. So I'm probably chatting shit, right? But no, if you consistently get that result of not getting the relationship that you want, then you're choosing it deep down. And the hack of reverse engineering that from the results is going to allow you to free yourself. Because when you understand why you have that deeper intention for something else, and it could be anything, and there's nothing wrong with that because it's unconscious, so it's not really your fault or anything, but it is still your desire, your true intention, even though it's unconscious. If you understand what's going on down there, then you can flip the script and start changing things. It's the same with all of these results that I've given as examples. If you keep saying that you want to get more money from your business or whatever, but it never happens, and you're just running around on the hamster wheel for years and years and years, then you don't really want that. Like at some level, you have the intention for something else more. And you need to dig inside yourself to figure out what that might be. The same with losing weight or anything, like literally anything. If you keep telling yourself that you want a certain thing, you want to lose weight in this example now, and it doesn't happen, then you need to ask yourself, okay, what do I really want? I'm telling myself I want to lose weight, but when I dig down into my shadow and to the parts of myself that I'm hiding from myself behind the ego, what is actually going on? And that is the hack. The results that you get consistently, no matter what you're telling yourself, actually show you what you are choosing deep down more than whatever it is that you think you want. And that doesn't mean that these things are bad or anything like that you're chasing things that you shouldn't be chasing. It just means that you haven't actually done any work around inner awareness and acceptance of yourself to see what is actually driving your motivation more than, and that's the key, more than whatever it is that you think you want. So let's talk quickly about what you need to do once you become aware of this hack. That is always the first step. I'm always talking about the same thing: awareness, acceptance, and action. If you're not getting the results that you want, then ultimately you need to be aware, the first step to changing anything, of the fact that at some level you are choosing something else more. And it doesn't matter what you're telling yourself. Like the little voice in our head is just our social programming, our self-hypnosis, our response to our own emotional bullshit and stuff going on deep down inside ourselves. And it's just a surface level relationship with ourselves. But there is a deeper level relationship that we all have, and that is the most real relationship, and it's always driving our lives. And so if you want to know more about that real relationship, you need to go through that first step that I shared with you of flipping the script basically and saying, right, these are the results I keep getting. Why might I be choosing that at some level? And to get to the next level of acceptance, awareness, acceptance, and action, you simply need to start asking yourself questions so that you can dive deep into yourself and really get a grasp of why you, in particular, based on what you've been through, your life story, who you are, blah, 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 why you, in particular, would have some kind of an unconscious intention for something else. So let's say, for example, in the examples I gave earlier, the first person, I think, was an imaginary human being called Susie or something like that. Whatever her name was, can't remember, sorry about that. But anyway, whatever her name was, she kept telling herself that she wanted a relationship, but as soon as somebody came along, she would become hypercritical and she would push them away. And so, just as an example, the story that she's telling herself about what she thinks she wants, what she thinks she has chosen, is actually being overridden outside of her awareness with a deeper desire she has for freedom, let's say, because when she was younger, this is based on her imaginary life story, when she was younger, her parents were always arguing about little things and so on and so forth. And so she is paranoid about getting in a relationship that's also going to be fueled by that kind of negativity and so on and so forth. And so as a barrier, she stops getting critical and pushing people away so that she can maintain her freedom and not have to relive that experience from her childhood. Maybe that's all bullshit, right? I've just literally pulled that out of my ass. But the point is, there is some overriding desire that is driving you more than whatever it is that you keep telling yourself you desire but don't get. So in the case of Susie, she actually desires freedom more than a relationship. Even though, for whatever reason, maybe because she just wants to fit into society and she thinks it's what she's supposed to do, she keeps telling herself that's what she wants. In the example of Bob, who is working on his business, he keeps telling himself that is what he wants. Like, okay, I want my business to succeed so I can provide for my family and blah, 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 blah. But deep down, maybe he doesn't want his business to succeed. There is an overriding desire for that is his unconscious intention that is driving his life. And it might simply be because his dad, when he was a kid, was always away at work. He was always so busy, and he doesn't actually want to replicate that relationship with his own kids. And so even though he feels like the best thing to do is to start his own business and to be successful and blah, 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 he actually has a stronger desire to just spend time with his kids. And so ultimately there's some kind of an inner conflict, but based on the results that he's getting, that inner desire, the unconscious intention to simply just spend more time with his kids and not be so busy like a workaholic or whatever, that is actually overriding his choices and the things that he actually decides to do in life, even though, ironically, if he could find a way, in this hypothetical example, to make his business work, then eventually he could spend more quality time with his kids because maybe he'll have more money or I don't know, whatever it is. But the point is, even though he's telling himself this story, there is something going on that is making him choose not to succeed in the way that he is telling himself he wants. In the final example of whatever her name was, Melissa, I think, who keeps telling herself she wants to lose weight and she just can't do it. Well, again, as offensive as it may seem to some people, there is something going on inside her where she is telling herself that she wants to lose weight, but deep down her real intention is not to. It could be something really simple. Like, for example, maybe she's worried that if she does lose weight, then she's suddenly going to be more attractive to the opposite sex. And then she's just going to have loads of guys flinging themselves at her. And she's actually insecure because she doesn't know how to be vulnerable because she's never really been in a relationship or whatever it is. And so that fear, unconscious, has created an unconscious intention where she wants to be alone so that she actually can choose not to face her vulnerabilities and to grow towards intimacy in a relationship and etc, etc. They're all examples, but the point is there will be something going on inside you exactly like that. If you have this problem of running around in circles, never getting anywhere and never making any changes in your life, and it's purely because at some level there is something in you that is causing you to choose not to get whatever it is that you think you want. And all you need to do really is to raise awareness of what that might be. If you raise awareness of it, you start to look at it head on, it'll start to dissolve. But then more importantly, once you've got that awareness, you can accept it. And only if you accept it can you start to truly flip the script by replacing that intention with something real or modifying the way that you go about it so you can increase your odds of getting whatever it is that you think you want by upgrading it to something that you actually want. So that was a lot of examples. Let me just quickly go through the 3-step process that is going to allow you to implement this hack. And I won't talk too much because I've just given you loads of examples, which hopefully made it clear, right? Awareness, acceptance, and action. Awareness, you need to use the hack that I've shared with you, which is that you can reverse engineer your real intentions bubbling away beneath the surface of your ego and your relationship with yourself. You can reverse engineer that by looking at the results you keep getting that you don't want, that you keep complaining about. And so become aware, ultimately, right now, if you can. That sounds very dramatic, but become aware that if you keep complaining about things, nothing is changing, then at some level, you are choosing it. That awareness is the gateway to setting yourself free, believe it or not. It may be painful in the short term, but in the long term, it's going to put you on this path to changing things. So that's the first step, awareness. Reverse engineer based on the results you keep getting. 2, you need to accept whatever that real intention is. And so ultimately, all you need to do is to ask yourself the right questions. Why might I, me, whoever you are, based on my experience and the things that I've been through, why might I have this unconscious intention for not getting what I keep telling myself, what I think I want? What do I want more? And the key thing there with acceptance is that acceptance ultimately means you're going to be uncovering some truth, some reality about what's going on inside you. And the thing with reality is the only thing that you can do with it is accept it. You can't judge it. If you start judging it, you're taking yourself out of reality. And so the reason I'm saying this is because the only thing you need to do with it is to figure out what it is and accept it without any judgment. Like I said, an unconscious intention is still your intention, whether you're initially aware of it or not, but it's not something that you can judge or blame yourself for, or you need to feel bad about. If you have been telling yourself that you want a certain thing, but there's something going on inside you that's actually causing you to choose the opposite of that, well, it's just the way, it's because of what you've been through. It's because of the story that you've already lived and the way that you're relating to it based on your shame, guilt, and trauma and all your underlying emotional stuff that's caused you to live in a little box, aka the ego. I'm always talking about that. But anyway, the point is just accept it. That's all you need to do. Don't judge yourself, accept it, and then you have a solid foundation so that you can move on to the third stage, which is taking action. And in this case, the action is twofold. You either need to modify your relationship with the thing that you originally thought you wanted by realizing that, okay, you've got this barrier, which is, some childhood thing or whatever it is, and then readjusting the plan that you're going to implement as you move towards it. Or you can replace the unconscious intention with a totally different intention. And all that means is that you think, okay, what do I really want? What is my vision for my life? What are my true values? What are my true intentions? And how do they conflict with what I have just uncovered about myself? And then basically what you need to do is to train yourself, and I've got some other videos about that on this channel, train yourself to think in alignment with the higher intentions and to not let this unconscious stuff hold you back when it doesn't need to. So that is basically all I need to say in this video. That is how you use this hack. You look at the results that you keep getting that you don't want and you find yourself complaining about chronically and consistently. with nothing ever changing. And you can say to yourself now, okay, this is actually a sign that at some level, for whatever reason, and whatever reason that may be, it's fine, but for whatever reason, I am choosing not to acquire or to achieve or to attain whatever it is that I keep telling myself I need to be bringing into my life. Obviously, you can make this too extreme and you can say, okay, this earthquake that happened on the other side of the world or whatever is obviously something that people have chosen because blah, 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 blah. Who knows for sure how deeply our unconscious mind is connected to everything else. And I don't want to make this video weird, but on a day-to-day practical level, this hack will and can and ought to, if you've watched this video and you think it actually makes sense, change the game for you. And it's very simple. It'll cut out a lot of bullshit because you won't be running around in circles trying to change things that are out of your control. The only thing ultimately any of us have power over is our relationship with ourselves. And so if you go through that process of awareness, of understanding that you can reverse engineer the results to figure out what you're really choosing, acceptance of whatever actually has caused you to choose something else, or whatever it is that you are choosing instead, more than what you think you want, and then action in the sense of modifying your intentions and actions or replacing that intention with something else. If you can do that, awareness, acceptance, and action, well, you stand a much higher chance of getting where you want to be in life, feeling good, growing real, and having a good time whilst you're here, because ultimately we're all going to die. And so you might as well make sure that what you're actually spending your time out there in the world running around chasing is something that you really want. So remember that hack, reverse engineer your true intentions by the results that you keep getting and complaining about, accept whatever it is, make a change, and life will be better. Hope that helped. If anyone wants to talk about this stuff, book a call on my website. But peace to you and stay real.